Paranormal Technology, Understanding the Science of Ghost Hunting, lecturer, author, and paranormal researcher. And when you're not busy in the field, do what I do and listen to The Mallard Report with Jim Mallard. Hi, this is Dave Roundtree, author of Paranormal Technology, Understanding the Science of Ghost Hunting, lecturer, author, and paranormal researcher. And when you're not busy in the field, do what I do and listen to The Mallard Report with Jim Mallard.
Hey everybody, Jim Mallard here, host of The Mallard Report. I've got a few things before we get started with the regular scheduled report. First thing, the views and opinions of this report, of any report, are those of its host and its guest. Not any other networks, affiliates, sponsors, chatters in the chat room, people that have come in contact with at a shopping mall, or anyone else. Please, if it offends you, I'm sorry. Just keep that in mind. It's just a radio interview. It's not meant to be offensive. So if it hits you the wrong way, I'm deeply sorry. If you are offended or you love the show, either way, please, I love feedback either direction. mallardreport@gmail.com. MALLIARD. If you can't get there, there's a contact form on the website. And if you can't remember Mallard, I know it's kind of strange spelling. Go to italkparanormal.com. There's a great banner ad for the site there. That's one of my projects I've been working on. I haven't got it all completed yet, but there's a great ad there for the Mallard Report. Another thing, the Mallard Report tonight is presented by Meadville Paranormal Investigation Team, based out of Meadville, Pennsylvania. MeadvilleParanormal.org. Founded in April 2008. Moment of truth, everybody. They are my home team, but they decided they wanted to sponsor the show without talking to me about it. So, more power to them, and I love every one of them. Find everybody on Facebook. Find us on Twitter. I hope you enjoy the show as much as I do putting it together. With that being said, it's that time. Let's take it live. Let's play a couple more things and take it live.
Hey everybody, it's the Mallard Report. It's the Mallard.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I'm sorry I'm running a little behind. New operating system worked fine for me on Sunday. Just roll with it. Eric asked me if I could record it. I recorded it so many different ways. Well, funny, Sunday night, tonight I opened the same programs and my sound card just says reject all opportunities for sound. All right, so I try bringing up the broadcaster and just one of the recording programs. It doesn't like that. Tonight, right now, the third time's the charm apparently, because now I've got the recorder going and I am hopefully broadcasting around the world on my fine affiliates. So with that being said, I'm bringing Scotty Roberts right up. I've already wasted enough time with all the fun and games, so let's see here. Make sure he's ringing in my ear. I tried talking to him earlier and he didn't ring in my ear. I didn't have my settings right on my Skype. Ringing. Here we go. That's good news.
Scott Roberts.
Scotty, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good.
Better than me. I just had to restart my computer 3 times to broadcast, so.
Nice. That's always fun. I used to call that scintillating live radio.
Yeah, as always. Like I told you before that I was having one of those nights, and I thought I had it all straightened out. And
it's a full moon tonight, you know.
I clicked broadcast, and apparently that is Spanish for restart your computer. I'm not sure.
It must be.
I don't get out much, but... So let's start with the book. Like we talked probably a month ago and just roll with it, but you've got so much going on. I want to skim across everything tonight.
All right.
I know last week.
Let's talk about the Paradigm Symposium if we can.
Go ahead, start there. Wherever you want to start, because I know last week you got really in depth with Daniel Belts, and I'm just I want to skim the top of everything because you've got so much going on. I just want to get it all out there for everybody to hear.
All right, man. It'll be fun.
So the symposium.
Are we live now?
Yeah.
Are we live now?
As live as ever. As live as
I thought
we're.
this was like. I thought this was like, okay, let's do the little pre-talk here. We're going to go on in about 5 minutes.
I did that pre-talk. I talked to you for 30 seconds earlier. That's all the more you get pre-talk
okay.
from me. I'm not rooting that.
So I'm sitting here talking about. I'm glad I didn't talk about hemorrhoids or anything like that.
Well, it could be worse, right?
Yeah, it could be worse. And I don't have any, just for the record.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I'm glad you got that.
yeah, I just want to clear that up really quick
before it gets posted on Facebook and everybody goes to town with it.
That's right. Well, let me tell you about the Paradigm Symposium. I'm glad you asked. The Paradigm Symposium. Now, I'm the publisher of Intrepid Magazine, and we've been in existence since, it was really about a year ago. We released the first preview issue with Chip Coffey on the cover, and it ended up being, it was supposed to be like a 12 to 15-page preview to try to see if we could garner some subscription interest out there. And it ended up being about a 78-page magazine. And it's been about that every month since. We didn't release issue number 1 until April, and that was the one with Walter Crittenden on the cover. And we've released now 8 issues altogether. We missed a couple of months in there just due to schedule. And publisher of a small magazine, and I've got great contributors, but I'm still a one-man show over here until very recently. I got to announce this, that I don't think I've announced this anywhere other than in the magazine. Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report is now a partner with me in Intrepid Magazine. I'm the publisher, he's the executive editorial director, and we've got these great hoity-toity titles for now a two-man show.
I was going to say, those are great titles for a two-man show, but I'm sure, proverbially speaking, somebody still has to mop up the floor.
Yes, and that would be me. That's what the publisher does. So, but Micah and I got to talking about 6-7 months ago, and we were just kind of on a lark. I said, when I was with TAPS and the Ghost Hunters and doing the magazine, I said they had all these events, and I'd go to all these events and speak. We had speakers out there, and I said, you know what? I said, we ought to do something like that with Intrepid Magazine, only make it in the fields that are more into either like metaphysics or the UFOs or the phenomenon that we deal with a lot in the magazine. And Micah said, we ought to do something toward the end of the year for 2012. And in many conversations we had over weeks, Micah came back and he said, I got this great title. We'll call it the Intrepid Magazine Gralien Report End of the World Bash Symposium 2012. And I said, that is a great title, that rocks, but it takes 5 minutes to say it. I said, we got to, let's think about that title. And so we started thinking about what we could do, what we wanted to focus on. And we had a conversation one day about how it seems that the whole UFO phenomenon has really shifted paradigm. You hear a lot about UFOs, but the talk is no longer right around, there's a UFO, I saw a light over my house. You don't hear that as much anymore as you hear about the whole archaeology of it all, the anthropology of it all, the ancient alien aspect
ancient
of
aliens
it.
Part of it, yeah, not the current aliens.
I said, that seems to me there's been this huge paradigm shift in, and then they went, paradigm shift. It's right there in front of us. It's such an overused phrase. But I said, why don't we just call, and we started thinking, let's call it the new Paradigm Symposium or something like that. And I said, let's just call it Paradigm Symposium. So that's where we came up with the name. And as we were doing all this talk over the weeks and the months about it, I started contacting people. Some of them were authors that I knew really well. They worked with me both at TAPS and now are very well known in Intrepid Magazine, and authors in their own right, like Marie D. Jones, who has, I think, 800 books out or something like that. Just an amazing, prolific author, screenwriter, all-around amazing person. And Larry Flaxman, who works with her and authors books with her. And then, so I asked them, I asked a couple of friends of mine in this field, Bill Burns from Ancient Aliens. He's known from UFO Hunters, Ancient Aliens, and has authored many books himself. I think he's got 20 books out there. And little do a lot of people know, Bill Burns is also he's an attorney. He's got his PhD in, I believe it's Shakespearean or Tudor. Boy, Bill, slap me if I get this wrong. I thought it was Tudor architecture or something like that.
Either way, it's still more school than I know.
Scholar. he's a Shakespearean scholar. And he had me on his show once, and we were talking about the Nephilim long before this book was done. And we ended up talking about Shakespearean stuff. So it was a very neat conversation. But Bill is somebody I called him, and I said, Bill, Micah Hanks and I are working on putting together a conference of some kind. And I didn't even get it out of my mouth. And he was like, absolutely, I'll come and be there. I'll come and speak for you. And so he helped me, got me in touch with some people. And he said, if you want some of the guys from Ancient Aliens, he says, let me put the word out there and see if we can raise some interest. And they started making contacts through the magazine, like with Philip Coppens. I republished an article he had written, and he and I got to talk, and I wanted to interview him for the magazine. And when I was interviewing him for the magazine, I said, we've got the symposium coming up that we're planning. And he says, yeah, I'd love to. And so we got Philip Coppens on board, and then we started thinking bigger. I thought, who are some of the big names in UFO or ufology and Ancient Aliens? I thought, Eric Von Daniken. I said, now there's a guy. I said, I don't even know how I'd get a hold of this guy right off the top of my head. And Eric Von Daniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods back in 1968 and has written, I think, 30 books since then. His most recent book, Odyssey of the Gods, which just came out through my publisher, New Page Books, back in, I want to say, August or September. And so I got a hold of Eric Von Daniken. And I said, would you be interested? Here's my background. Here's what I've done. Here's my credentials. I've got a new book coming out with your publisher and my publisher on the Nephilim. And I said, and I wrote a chapter in a book for New Page Books that you also wrote a chapter in, Lost Civilizations and Mysteries of the Past. And I wasn't sure what to expect. And within 2 days, I got an email back that said absolutely yes. And so we started thinking, this could be something very exciting. And in a way, the Paradigm Symposium started growing bigger than we thought it was going to be when it was just an idea. And so we started gearing up for that a bit. And then we talked to George Norrie. George Norrie from Coast to Coast, he endorsed my book. It's on the cover of my book. And I thought, hey, there's a great in. Maybe I should talk to him. And of course, trying to get hold of him, is really tough. Micah knew the guys over there very well, and we had a tough time getting through. Well, I know Ian Punnett very well now. I don't know if you know Ian as well. He did does the weekend Coast to Coast. Now, he's just backed off of it. He's just going to do some guest stuff now. He's been doing it for years, but he's got a big talk show here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, on the big Clear Channel station up here. He's been up here for 12 years, I think. He's been doing talk show up here, and every morning for 4 hours. And and I know Ian. I had met him about 10 years ago. He was doing a thing called the Dead Theologians Society. I always do that because of that stupid movie. The Dead Theologians Society. And we'd meet. He had this big radio show, and he'd announce it every other Tuesday. We're going to meet at this bookstore, and it's 7 o'clock at night. We're going to talk about stuff, weird stuff, politics, religion, whatever. And that's where I met him. And I was a single dad at the time, and I had my kids always in tow with me. And twin daughters, I think they were 10 or 11 at the time I met Ian, and my son Sam was 4, and if not a little younger, come to think of it. And so that's where I met him, and he got to know my kids and I, and so I've known him over the years. He endorsed my first book that came out, The Rollicking Adventures of Tam O'Hare. He would get me on his radio show. His producer would call me. He told me, I can't get you on there without, it's like a paid advertisement to have you come in and an endorsement and stuff. He says, let's see if we can slip you in something. I get calls at like 5:55 in the morning, and I'm like, hello. And they go, hey, this is Souljoy, Ian's producer. You want to come on? You ready? Can you come on in 5 minutes? I'm like, let's see. And I'm scratching my ass, looking for a shirt and wondering if I can brew a pot of coffee in 5 minutes. And I said, yeah. So I get up and Ian would say, hey, it's my friend Scotty, and he's got a new book out, and hey, tell us about it. And so he's promoting stuff. Well, I called Ian up, and I said, Ian, would you like to be a part of this event? And so he is going to come on, and he's going to moderate the big discussion panel that we're going to have, and it's going to be during the banquet at this thing. It's a dinner theater style. Once dinner's being cleared, they're going to all the guest speakers going to be there and have a big panel discussion, and Ian's going to moderate that. So again, it started building momentum. Then because of Bill Burns' connection and Phil Coppens, I thought I'd really like to get Giorgio Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens. He's the guy with the big hair, And so I put out some feelers and nothing, never got back to me. I thought, he's probably just not interested or whatever. And about a little over a month ago, I called his offices at Legendary Times magazine, and I got a hold of his assistant. And I said, hey, this is, Scott Roberts with Intrepid magazine. We've got this symposium we're doing. And she said, I think he may have seen your emails and just hasn't had a chance. She said, just send it to me in an email. So I shoot her another email that night. And late that night, I get an email back from Giorgio, just profoundly apologizing he hadn't gotten back to me yet. And yes, I would love to come. I look forward to meeting you all in October, and so on and so forth. So Giorgio was on. Then we had a bunch of authors, and ranging from Marie Jones, Larry Flaxman. We have Laird Scranton, who is big in the ancient cosmological field. He just has a new book out called The Velikovsky Heresies, talking about scientists in the 20s who had theories about Venus during the Middle Ages, careening off of our moon or something like that, or through the solar system. And it used to be a jackpot back then. But then Einstein even came out and started supporting him. He was a friend of his, and Einstein was trying to undo all the, Velikovsky became this like anathema in the scientific community. You couldn't even speak his name and hold your peer review or anything like that. And so Einstein finally came out and said, I'm going to stand up for my friend because he's right. He's right about these things. And 3 days later, Einstein's dead. And but there's some things that he had said and written about him. So Velikovsky Heresies, Laird Scranton wrote a book about this guy and how his theories are starting to come into play, scientifically speaking. And we've got Paul Von Ward, who wrote the book We Have Never Been Alone. And he's going to be there speaking on that. I've got a very good friend of mine, a guy by the name of Dr. John Ward. He and his associate, Dr. Maria Nilsson, are archaeologists in Luxor, Egypt. They run a little Arabian horse stable, and they're archaeologists. He's from Herefordshire. That's like Worcestershire sauce.
Sounds like me trying to pronounce something right there.
The shires are all sure. If you look at Worcestershire sauce, it was Worcester, and it's pronounced something like Worcester. Worcestershire sauce, and so he's from Herefordshire, England, and they're archaeologists. He's like an Indiana Jones type. They're on the ground, going constantly on digs. They live in Luxor, right on the banks of the Nile, right in a little village that used to be called Menedat Habu. It is a place that's been there for thousands of years. The big Ramesseum, the big funerary mausoleum temple of Ramses III is there, and it's that very classic Egyptian thing, the big flat front with the big shaped things and the lions down the road and stuff, and that's that big thing. But that sits right there. He walks over. He took my book, as a matter of fact, and walked over there and took pictures at the temples and stuff with my book. But he is coming to speak. And he is speaking on symbolism, the symbology, and how it all relates to the Cathars and the Freemasons and all of this kind of stuff. So from his digs in ancient Egypt and the connections. So that's going to be fascinating. We've got, I don't want to leave anybody out, but we've got Nick Redfern. You know who Nick Redfern is? Cryptozoologist, ufologist, prolific writer. He is going to be there. We've got Anthony S. Sanchez, a good friend of mine. He wrote the book UFO Highway. He's working on the Leonid papers or project or something like that. Very deep into the thick, heavy conspiracy theories of places like the Dulce Base and the Arcoleta Plateau in New Mexico and all of that weird stuff. It's kind of that, think X-Files, the mythology, episodes he had with all the underground and backworld Illuminati type of stuff going on. That's the junk he's talking about. And then we've got Dan Madsen, who's a very good friend of mine for about the last 25 years. Dan is a guy that very different from the other speakers, but I thought he would be a great flavor change in the mix here. Dan is a guy that back in the late 70s started the Star Trek official fan club newsletter. And it was just run off on a copy machine and stapled and send it out. Well, he got the first licensure from Paramount to do the official Star Trek magazine. And he converted to this big glossy, big full-color glossy magazine, the Star Trek Communicator magazine, which ran for years. And then he also latched into Lucasfilms, and he did all the Star Wars magazines. He did all the Indiana Jones magazines. He did all the Lord of the Rings magazines when they came out, and this guy was just a sci-fi publishing mogul, and he ended up selling that off. Now he's with a website called heruniverse.com, which is the young woman who does the voice of the female character in the animated Clone Wars series. She started a clothing line, a sci-fi geek girl clothing line. And she said, why do you have to be a geek in your big, blousy, stupid, fat guy T-shirts when we can do them on really cool, chic chick shirts and really cool designs? So she started this company with some partners. Dan is part of that. And now they've got licensures for like all the shows on Sci-Fi and all these other shows that are out there and stuff. And they're going gangbusters. So Dan is going to come, and he is going to speak on his experience. He says, well, what would you want me to speak on? And he said, I couldn't speak in a company like that. And I said, Dan, and I'll even say this to you, what drives us all to be interested in any of this stuff? It's we have this curiosity that started when we were kids. We wanted to know what the hell was out there and how it affected us. And I said, Dan, you are no different in your thinking than an Eric Von Daniken. You just took it in a different direction, and you started a publishing company. And I said, I want you to come and speak to everybody and tell them about your experiences, the people you know, what you do, what you believe about this stuff, and why that drove you to make this company. And he goes, he says, that I could talk about forever. I said, then you're on. And so Dan Madsen will be there. I want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out here on my list. I'm going through the mental list in my head, and I think I've covered everybody. Well, Micah Hanks, of course, will be there. He's my partner in this. And Micah runs the Gralien Report, or GralienReport.com, just alien with a GR at the front, GralienReport.com. He has also got a new book that's coming out through New Page Books, hopefully by the time of the symposium. And if I get my ass in gear, my new book will be out by the time of the symposium. I'm doing a follow-up to the Nephilim. So hopefully, if all goes well, we will both have new books out at the time. Mine's just trailing off the tail end of the story of the Nephilim and taking it into other areas. It's called the Reptilian Enigma, and it's subtitled the Pervasive Presence of the Serpent Throughout Human History, Religion, and Alien Mythos. And I'm digging into a lot of stuff with that. Micah's is called the UFO Singularity. Micah is a brain and a half. This guy, he puts me to shame. I sit and listen to him. I just want to go, oh, yep. You know, that's the way he makes me feel some days. But he's so smart. And he approaches this stuff not from that whack job point of view, but from, and I hope nobody goes, hey, wait a minute, are you talking about me? I don't want to offend anybody. There's a whack job side to all this, and I think there's a very intelligent side to all this. He represents that intelligentsia, if you will, without the Illuminati overshadowing of the word intelligentsia. So we've got just an amazing lineup of people. Again, Von Daniken, Norrie, Coppins, Burns, Tsoukalis, Punnett, Marie Jones, Larry Flaxman, Paul Von Ward, Dr. John Ward, Anthony Sanchez, Dan Madsen, Leonard Scranton, Nick Redfern, all these guys, amazing. We have said it is the most eclectic mix of esoteric minds in this field to be gathered in one place. And we're doing it here in Minneapolis, October 18th through the 21st. And we've got, if you go to our website, two ways you can find it. You can go to intrepidmag.com. That's my magazine site. There's a big banner on there for the symposium. Or just go to paradigmsymposium.com. And paradigm is, I suppose if the Brits were to pronounce it, it would probably be pedidigm. It's a paradigm, Paradigm, symposium.com. So you go there, you can take a look at the ticket packages. You can see what's up. I will tell you this. There's 3 tiers of tickets, and we are selling, the one that's selling out the fastest is the highest tier, which is the all-inclusive ticket. So if you're interested, I don't want to sound like I'm just being the salesman here. And now, today, till Friday, get your tickets. No, it's very sincerely. If you want to come to this and this is something that interests you, I'd go over there and take a look and start making some plans.
If you buy the tickets during the remainder of the show, he'll include a free bottle of steak oil. I'm just kidding.
That's right. You rub it on your belly, you rub it on your scabs, you rub it on your ankles that have gone bad. It'll stop diarrhea, it'll stop constipation, it will make you flow, it will do things for you that you never knew could be done to you. You get it now, it will help you get pregnant, it will help you stop making children, it will help you do anything. Yes, that is the Intrepid snake oil. Comes in one 12-ounce bottle. 12-ounce bottle will last you for 3 days. You get that 3-day supply. Now, I will give you a second 3-day supply for the same price.
That's right.
There you go.
I knew that was a good line for you, so I just had to go there.
You know, we'll have to do that. We're thinking of different things we can do. We're actually putting together, and we thought of this with the symposium in mind. I'm trying to do things that are giveaways, some things that we can sell, some products. And we thought, what do all of us guys do? We all either smoke and drink, and I'm not talking about being drunkards. And then we smoke, we drink coffee, stuff like that. And I said, you know what we got to do? We got to look into private labeling some coffee. And so we're looking at that. My wife is looking into all of that. And we're coming up with Intrepid. You know, the little rocket we have for Intrepid magazine. We're thinking of starting Intrepid Bold Coffee, you know, and we'll come up with all the tag words and all that, but design some cool labels. And private label, I said I want a bold bean, and it's got to be Arabica coffee. It's got to be that stuff. It's the good stuff. And so we're looking into that. And then Micah said, now, here's all this I'm talking about. Cigarettes and whiskey and wild, wild women, you know, so all the radio guys are known for that. Writers are known for smoking and drinking and coffee and all of that. You know, it's a stereotype. But I thought it'd be cool to offer up some good coffee because we're always joking about coffee. Well, here's Micah, my intelligent partner, says, you know, we have a private label, some tea too, shouldn't we? Tea? And I said, what's that? You know, that
it takes me to that Lincoln quote: "If this is tea, bring me coffee. If this is coffee, bring me tea."
Yes, and so he's thinking of. We're thinking of Earl. You know, his Graylian report. We're thinking of Earl Graylian tea. Wait for it, folks. Earl.
I got it. I was in the middle of a drink. That wasn't nice of you.
Yeah.
You know, I just got this all set up tonight, right? You're trying to make me spit stuff all over it. That's good.
That's it. So, you know, we're doing some fun stuff like that for the symposium as well. And I don't know, I'd love to do big tin lunch boxes or something. I think that'd be great. A big lunchbox. Remember, now you're not as old as me, and I know that already. You're probably not even half my age. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. And, man, back then, the big thing, you know, like I had get this will date me. I had a Lone Ranger lunchbox. And it was one of those tin lunch boxes. You know, it's not the cheap crap plastic things that you get now at Walmart.
Yeah.
These were the big tin things. I mean, you could drive over it and it would break the suspension in your car before it would hit the lunchbox. And so, I don't know. We're just messing around with that kind of stuff. I don't even know how I got on a coffee, to tell you the truth.
I don't have any idea. But
so we're having fun with this. We want this thing. And I'll be very honest with you. We're looking at this as it started off as saying we ought to do this. And I said, really what I'm going to try to do with this is try to make it a way to generate some revenue for the magazine so we can expand the magazine. And I thought this might be a fun way to do it. And, of course, everybody criticizes people when, they're just doing that to make money. Well, you know what? You can find the best book in the world out there, and with the greatest message. And that writer wishes he could stand on the corner and give that thing away for free. Because it's like, hey, you walking by, I wrote this, and it's really good. I want you to enjoy it. There's something in here for you. But if you did that, your publisher would have your nuts on a platter. The publisher has to make money in order to generate the book, in order to decide whether or not they're going to let you write the next one. It's the same thing with this symposium. Yeah, there's a cost to it. Yeah, we're looking to make some dollars off of it, but we're not looking to be rich, flag our little squirrely tails all the way to the bank and go, oh, man, we took you on that one. We're looking to present the best symposium we possibly can with the coolest people that we possibly can. We're looking to generate some money so we can maybe even pay ourselves something this year. And maybe generate some money for the magazine so we can expand that magazine into other areas. And we make no bones about it. We hope we make some money on this. If we don't, we're just hoping we don't lose our undies in the process.
If you don't make money, you don't want to lose your whole.
I got to tell you, just giving you all a hint, putting on a symposium of this size, that I've already signed contracts. I have put my anatomically unlikely appendages on the platter, signing some of this stuff. I just signed for the hotel. The hotel bill, before it's even said and done, I had to sign for almost a $40,000 tab ahead of time. I am liable for whether we have the event or not. And so things like that. Putting on an event like this, I checked out with other people before we even started. The median figure I kept hearing was, oh, it's going to cost about $80,000 to put this on, $80,000. And then I talked to another guy. Hey, you do this convention in this area. What kind of dollars go out? Oh, it costs us probably roughly right around $80,000. And I kept hearing that figure, and I thought, oh, geez, that's more money than I have. A lot more money than I have. That's about 80,000 times more than I have. And so we started looking into this, and we thought, if we sell our tickets, if we sell out of our tickets, we'll be able to pay our bills and maybe pay ourselves something, and maybe take a vacation to the Wisconsin Dells or something. And so the intent of this thing, yes, no bones about it. We hope to make a little bit of money off of it, because that will help us do what we're doing. That will help us expand the magazine, maybe help us do this more. But the intent behind it, there's that esoteric intent as well. It's the artist or the creative person or the scientist or the thinker or the researcher standing in the corner and saying, come on into this. I want to share this knowledge with you. And there's some great people that are going to do it with us. So that's what this thing is all about. It's really disseminating good information. We have subtitled the Paradigm Symposium, and we've subtitled it Revisioning Our Place in the Universe. And the reason to bring that up, and maybe you want to talk about this a little bit too, and this is really the whole purpose behind my book too, that revisioning who we are. The age-old questions. Who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? It's a revisioning of that, of saying, okay, let's stop for a second. We've got all the old answers. Now let's reboot those questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Is it all strictly stuck in my religious theology? Is it, if I'm an atheist, is there something to my atheism, or is my atheism just a way for me to flip my finger off at God and church? Am I a scientist? Where did I come from, and where am I going?
It's an awesome set of questions, because people were like, well, you grew up in the church. Where are you now? And it's like, I'm not in the same place I was yesterday. Every day I hold that glass, the one that everybody asks if it's half full or half empty. It's still just a glass to me. But anyways,
right.
The prism of the light always changes on how I see things. And I prefer that method to seeing that same glass and saying, oh, I love you every day, and just accepting it for what it is.
And I'll tell you, I heard, I don't know if I mentioned this when I talked to you before, but my daughter's lights of my life, I've got twin daughters who are just turned 20. And they're out on their own. They're going to college. They both started their own businesses, which is cool. One's a costumer, the other one's an artist, and she's selling her prints left and right, and just amazing. What? That's my kids. But one of them posted on I think it was Bryn, my daughter. She posted on my Facebook a few months back this little vignette of great music. Think of this music that's really moving. Think of movie music or something, but it's like just somebody on the piano, just this echoey, melancholy sounding piano, and it's not playing a tune. He's just playing these chords, these chords that go in, and big spaces of silence where it's just echoing a bit, another chord, and it's deeply moving. And they were playing this behind little snippets of Richard Feynman, the late Richard Feynman. I don't know exactly, and shame on me, I don't know exactly what his area of specialty was. He was a scientist. You could place him up there with the Oppenheimers and the Einsteins. And these were some lectures that he was doing. And he was talking about the art of the universe. How an artist friend of his said, "Oh, this couldn't possibly come into existence without the hand of a creative artist type," And he didn't say it that way, but he said, my friend was presenting this, and I said, yeah, it could. Science does this. There's mathematics behind that, and he's going through all this stuff about the universe, and then he says he's getting a little passionate about what he's talking about, and he's talking about God, but doesn't really mention God. He says something like this. He says, and he says, and all these stories, he said, that we hear, and he must have mentioned God because it's very pointed on God, about God. He says, when I think of the vastness of the universe and how much is out there and how much mathematically we can presuppose that there are things out there. He says, I find that for one of the manifestations of God, that's the way I think he got around, plugging a certain religion or something, but he says, one of the manifestations of God, he says, that he would come to this place. He says, seems to me to be so local. He says that I can't wrap my mind around that. And he says, frankly, he says, I am very comfortable feeling lost in the cosmos. And it kind of drifts off after that into something else. And I thought about that for a while. And I thought, is this a very sad man to look at that and say, this is a guy who feels lost in the cosmos, even though he says he's comfortable about it? Or is this a guy who has come to great terms with what he believes? And he's a guy that maybe can answer who I am, where I came from, where I'm going, all scientifically and mathematically. Or has he come to terms too philosophically with it? When he says, I'm comfortable with this. When he declares that he thinks God coming to this planet seems so local that it's just too far gone for me to wrap my mind around that. It's too local in this universe. And I wonder about that. And these are the questions I pose in my book, even. I look at it, I don't mean that to sound, again, I don't mean to sound salesy. And if you buy my book,
it is your book, and that is the point of having a guest on. I mean, I do have guests on that don't have to sell anything, but at the end of the day, if you're coming on a radio show, you have either a paranormal team to pitch or a book to pitch.
Right.
You're not just going to sit here and say, well, I guess if you're Lush Rimbaugh, well, anyways, he gets never mind.
I happen to like Rush, and I got into a big argument on I had something like almost 400 posts because I put up something that said something like taxpayers should pay for contraception. Yeah, right. Is it something like that? Like 400 posts on there. Just some people supporting that, some people just taking me to task. Oh, it's more of your winger rubbish, and this and that, and you're an ass, and all of this. And I said, wait a minute. I said, when it gets down to me, this whole thing with Rush, not to get off the whole Richard Feynman point here and the where am I in the universe, I think Rush probably should have used better words. I sometimes think, I listened to him, by the way, I started listening to him in 1989. And I was an adult in 1989. And I started listening to him back then. I listened to him for about 20 years, and the last few years, I kind of drifted. I don't have time. I catch him every now and then. I got a little turned off by him at points because I thought, come on, Rush. Don't go so far with that. I understand the shtick. I get it. I know the shtick. If anybody wants to tell me Rush is an insensitive slob, I'll argue with him because I don't think he is. I think he's an entertainer and he uses shtick.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, I can't imagine him being, but he could be. I don't know.
Well, he has said many times over the last 20 years, I've heard him say, he'd say things like, folks, here with my formerly nicotine-stained fingers, he does this little thing, and he talks about folks. He says, there is so much absurdity out there, and he says, and people don't think, people don't use their brains, and he says, it's right there before you. He says, what I do with this show, if you think I'm being insensitive or this or that, and he's talking about that stuff, this is years ago. He said, I illustrate the absurd by being absurd. He says, if there's an issue that is so absurd in the way people are acting, he says, I will react with absurdity to make a point. And, he even said that, and I was surprised. I was using that when I was talking about him. I said, look, I'm not here to defend Rush. I'm just saying Rush has a right to say what he said. Oh, yeah, but he said, you can have free speech, but free speech, can get people killed and stuff like that. I said, you're overreacting. That's hyperbolic. That's utter rubbish and hyperbole. Rush said something. And I said, what's absurd to me? I said, is that the president came out and said something about it. I said, here you got a young woman. People are going to hate me for this probably. But you got a young woman who is making a case, and everybody's bringing up, well, what about contraception for, if you've got this illness or something, and, you need this for this reason. I said, that's not what Rush was talking about. He reacted to the fact that she said she went to 3 years of college and spent roughly $1,000 a year on birth control, but she was a poor college student going to the university. And after all those university bills, how could she afford to pay for her own contraception? Now, she may have talked other issues. I didn't hear her thing. I just heard all the brouhaha about it. What Rush was reacting to was the fact that she said, I spend $1,000 a year, and she talked about having multiple partners and stuff like this. And Rush, kind of what Rush was saying, and if you and I were sitting having a beer, and we knew of a woman who spent $1,000 a year on birth control and believed in free sex, you know what? She'd be invited to every party we had.
That's right.
But and we might go, wow, she gets around, whew. We might have called her a slut. I'm sorry. Oh man. Such a bad, offensive, politically incorrect word. But I think what Rush did was he jumped on that way too quick and forgets he's got, like 15 million listeners a week. And he uses language that is going to offend people. And you know what? Sometimes he's there saying, I'm here to offend people. That's okay.
But see, here's the problem. If he was on internet radio,
yeah,
no one would care that he offended people, was offensive. But since he's on the traditional radio, that's the problem.
This is an example I use. Talking about internet radio, I had some friends who, City Paranormal, who had a little blog talk radio show, about 50 to 100 listeners, something like that. And Britt Griffith was on that show. And this is back when I was with TAPS. And Britt's on the show, and you know this whole story. Britt Griffith from Ghost Hunters, and he's on the show, and they're all talking about, not even talking about ghost hunting, they're talking about politics, and so Britt was great for that. And they asked him about, they were talking about gun control and gun laws, and Britt made this statement. Now, everybody, warning, this is a quote. This is not Scott Roberts saying this. See, you got to put disclaimers in everything now, because somebody's going to sue your butt. But he made this statement. They're laughing. They're just laughing about it. And he goes, yeah, he says, well, maybe you'd get some of that from those pussy faggots out on the East Coast, but not here in California. And he's talking about gun control. And you know what happened to him? He's on his first season on Ghost Hunters International. He flies back to Poland, and he gets to Poland. There's a pink slip waiting for him, and he's canned from Ghost Hunters International. You know why? Because he said the word faggot. Oh my God, we are so sensitive in this country, and he was like, I remember he called me and he's going, Scotty, I didn't mean that. There's nothing to do with gays or anything like that. So, you know what happened? He was the political football there. Sci-Fi Network had just gotten an F rating from GLAAD, Gay Lesbian Alliance, whatever the D stands for. They given them an F rating because they didn't have enough gay and lesbian relationships in their television shows. and I'm like, who the hell cares? I watch TV for TV. If there's gays in it, there's gays in it. There's straight people or straight people. I watch a show because I like it, I don't watch it because there's you don't have enough heterosexual relationships in this show. No, I'm not going to watch you. I'm sorry. I'm not insensitive to, they're a minority group. Yeah,
but it's
I get all
sci-fi. That's not their genre of programming in the first place.
Well, why do you think you had shows like, for instance, just a big for instance, Stargate Universe? I liked that. That was a cool show. But they really showcased the fact that one of the main women characters was a lesbian. And I said to my wife, we're watching, I said, I know why that relationship is being so showcased in the show. It's because Sci-Fi got an F rating for not showing that. And they're doing a public relations thing. Well, that's why Britt got canned. And he got canned for saying something he shouldn't have said, using a word he shouldn't have used. Well, what ends up happening, not even a year later, he's rehired by Ghost Hunters, and he's still with Ghost Hunters now.
But the action was made, and they made all their press releases to appease people.
Exactly.
And now, next press cycle, here we are again.
Fast forward to Rush. Oh, he's losing all his advertisers now. And all these people are going, see, all these advertisers are leaving him because he's so insensitive and he uses. I said in a post just yesterday, I'm answering these people, and we're talking, we're chatting, and I don't have time to sit on the flipping Facebook all day. But, with 400 posts in there, just about, you can tell how much time I was in there answering things. And I said, I guarantee you there wasn't a single advertiser that pulled because, the insensitivity of Rush. Because I guarantee you something, if his insensitivity bolstered his ratings and people bought more of those advertisers' products, they wouldn't care if people liked it or not. They would sign on for another year because it was selling their product. But what they're afraid of is that people are going to stop buying the products that Rush has on his show because he said something insensitive politically. And that's what happened. I said, it's all about the money. I said, follow the money. That's what this is about. Now, I said, on the sensitive or insensitive issue, I said, yeah. I said, maybe it was insensitive. Maybe he said things. Sorry, neighbors going by.
That's okay. Yeah, but it is what it is at this point. Okay. I got to stop you for a minute because we've got 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure you get all those websites back out there one more time.
In the whole show?
Yeah.
Did we talk through the whole show?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the Nephilim. Hey, folks, the sons of God came down, interbred with human women, bequeathed the race called the Nephilim, and the Nephilim are, I believe, could be aliens. And it correlates with 600 different cultures and religions out there. You step out of religious, you look at this whole picture, a huge event took place to humanity, changing humanity. Humanity interrupted is what the Nephilim is all about. And it correlates with many other mythologies, legends, and religious histories out there. So take a look at it. If you want to, go take a look at my book. You can go to intrepidmag.com. You can subscribe to my magazine while you're there. That'd be really cool. But you can click on the link there. That'll take you, I think I've got a link just to Amazon.com if you want to see the book. You can also click on Paradigm Symposium and see if that's something that interests you and if you'd like to come and be with us during that event. And that's all I got to pump. Other than that, the whole message of my book is think for yourself. Don't let your church tell you what to believe. Don't let mom and dad tell you what to believe. Don't let your political party tell you what to believe. Go out there and research it yourself and find out what you believe. Because it's there. It's there for the finding. It's there for the unearthing. It's there. Find it.
That's true. All right, Scotty. We'll have to have you on again before the symposium. Get that all out there again and all that fun stuff. You're busy. I'm sure by then you'll have something else going on. So, but I want to thank you for coming on tonight.
Man, I appreciate you having me. And I feel like I just talked away an hour, just yammering. So
That's all
I
right.
always say put a nickel in me, and I'll talk for 4. So
All right. Well,
thanks for the nickel.
no problem. All right, everybody. That was Scotty Roberts, and I'm gonna jump because I'm right up against it. Okay. Talk to you later.